Beit HaMikdash, which was a very poor copy of the first Beit HaMikdash. Okay, people who lived in the first Beit HaMikdash, when they saw the second Beit HaMikdash, they were crying. They said it's like a little shtibel after you've seen like the whole thing. The beautiful picture that we have in the second Beit HaMikdash, by the way, is not from when they built the Beit HaMikdash. It's from Herod, who built it, who fancied it up 300 years later. Okay, so it's not what they had when they came to the Beit HaMikdash. It was just a mere shadow. There was still a little bit of nevuah left, okay, because after the prophecy, after the first one, they lost a lot of prophecy because they were going into Galus, and the Sanhedrin asked Hashem, please get rid of idol worship. Get rid of the desire for idol worship, because they're not going to make it in the Galus with idol worship. So Hashem agreed, but he said, but in that case, I have to make it even, so there'll be bechira choshit, that people will still, if people just see prophets and prophecy everywhere and no desire for anything else, that's not called freedom of choice. So he had to take away prophecy, not completely. He brought it down to a trickle. Before it was gushing, anybody would ask, would be like a rabbi, your local prophet. And afterwards, it wasn't. It was like there were a few. And then you had to ask them, to the point where when they came back to Israel, all right, because Daryavesh allowed the son of Esther and Achashverosh, allowed them to come back to Israel, supported it, very few Jews came back. They were the Jews who were weak, who were poor, who were not the highest of it's not standard, it's standings, whatever, and it wasn't the majority of the people who came back. They were doing very well in Babel. Torah was doing well in the Babylonian Talmud. They were doing excellent. They had amazing rabbis there. It was an amazing community, whatever, and they didn't all come back. But then they had a shaila. If the second Beit HaMikdash is built already, maybe we don't have to fast, right? If the second Beit HaMikdash is built, why are we fasting? We're fasting because we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, right? If you have a Beit HaMikdash, so now you shouldn't be fasting, right? But the interesting thing is, even though they had all these huge rabbis over there in Babel, they sent for a prophet. They sent to Zechariah to ask, should we fast? And his answer is, he doesn't give them an answer. He gives them a prophecy, whatever, of what Hashem says, or Hashem says. And Hashem says, basically, it's not exactly what he said. He says, I don't want your fasts. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't fast. It means that at the end, it's continue fasting. He said, but your fasts are just not to eat, and then, and talk about what you're going to fix later, what you're going to eat, and start preparing the food because you're hungry. If that's what the fasts are all about, I don't want your fasts. Okay? I want you to do tshuva. So that's really also the answer to the other fasts that we have. While, we have them still, they're not, if you're allowed to fast, you should fast. But if you can't fast, because whatever reason, but it's a day of tshuva. And tshuva on what? And also ben Adam makom to Hashem, and also between Adam and Chavero, okay? And we have to see what was so bad, how it got so bad is, what were the 5 things that happened? One, the 10 Commandments Moshe broke. Okay, when he came down, that was Yudzayin B'Tammuz. Okay, he came down and he broke the luchos. That's an example of our distancing ourselves from Hashem, whether it was through Avodah Zarah, all right, or whether it's through other things. Okay, much later on, Apostomus burnt Torah. Okay, and they count that as one of the 5 things. Meaning, since then, many Torahs have been burnt. Okay, but it's an example of the beginning of all these tragedies about Torahs being burnt and anti-Semitism, etc., in the world.
Sure. Rabbi Breiderwood says that it was Ezra's Torah, the Torah, the Torah that they used to. Nobody knows for sure, but the Torah that they used to copy all the other Torahs.
Oh wow! Okay.
Ezra HaSofer.
Wow.
What's his name? Who burned it up?
Apostomus. Yeah. And then there was, of course, the siege. Okay. No, the breaking of the walls. Excuse me, the breaking of the walls. And there, by the way, the breaking of the walls is of the second temple. the first temple, the breaking of the bows, on the 9th of Tammuz. Okay, but the 5 and the last thing, excuse me, that is they stopped doing the Korban Tamid forever, kind of thing. So that's very sad. Our Korban Tamid was something that was still a connection of that love in the Beis HaMikdash. We didn't have an Aron HaKodesh anymore. We didn't have anything in the Holy of Holies. When he came, he did it on a rock. The Aaron, I'm not the Aaron, the Kohen. He did it on a rock, the Avoda. There was no, no, not even on a Mizbech. There were no
Right.
tablets, nothing was in the Holy of Holies, right? So it was really like
gone from the time of the
from the first one, yeah, they didn't have it anymore. So even though he did an avoda, it's not like where is it? But he did it anyway, and so a lot of things were missing, and so we still had the 4, Asar B'Teves. The first one wasn't Asar B'Teves. The second one, the second siege, they don't even know what it was. Okay, they do know that the Romans killed Jews after Pesach. What happened was people were coming from Bavel and all these places for the Aliyah Regel. That they said they didn't come back to Israel. They said we're not coming back to Israel, but we're giving charity. We're giving charity to Yerushalayim, and we will come for the Shlosh Regalim.
Like the Americans today.
Similar, yes. Similar. We will come for the Shalosh Regalim, and so they came. And so there were a lot of people here, and the Romans they didn't get a chance to go home yet. The flights were all canceled.
As I said.
And a lot of people got killed in Yerushalayim. But it's very important. They said one of the reasons they don't know when was the siege was because in the second Beit HaMikdash, a lot of the deaths were because of other Jews. Not because of Romans, and not because the Jews made sieges. Jews got rid of all maybe it was the first, I'm not sure, but there was 3 people who were keeping up Yerushalayim. That's so much storage of food to keep up. And the part of the Jewish population who were the rebels against the Romans burnt the storage houses. So there won't be food for the Jews in Jerusalem. Why? Because they were afraid the Jews in Jerusalem would give into the Romans. Okay, so you understand.
Well, it was not wait a second.
They wanted to have independence, okay? Secular independence, okay? And the Jews in Yerushalayim wanted to be able to live a Jewish life, and they were willing to live it under Roman rule. Okay, as long as they could keep up their practices, the Romans were letting them keep up their practices. And so the people who wanted to rebel and want to have independence of the Romans allowed a lot of Jews to die because they didn't want them to give in to the Romans. You have to understand this has been going on for many years. So when we talk about sinas chinam, okay, and when we talk about the division in the Jewish people, this happened a long time ago already. This is not just starting,
Last week.
What?
And it happened last week.
Many of these things that happen. So what are we supposed to work on then? When he talks about tshuva, and he says, these days are going to become Yom Tov. I understand Tisha B'Av will become Yom Tov because it is a Yom Tov already now. We don't say Avinu Malkeinu. The reason we don't say it is because of Yom Tov. Okay, now we understand there's one day a year. What about the other 3? What do you mean they're going to become Yom Tov? What's the point? Okay, first of all, so we see that the last of the 4 fasts is Tzom Gedalia, which is the least it's short. It's after Rosh Hashanah, whatever, you're busy in Shuvah, mode, whatever, and that one, that one is where, same thing, Jews, because of Jews, he got killed. Either a Jew killed him or he was told to the Roman they got killed. After he got killed, all the Jews had to leave Israel. Before then, the Romans allowed the Jews to stay under their rule in Israel and have their own life. Okay? But because of the infighting, and then somebody killed him because he was the Roman, they put him in there. They killed him, everybody had to leave. The Jews caused that. Okay, so we have to understand that we cause a lot of these things in these 3 weeks. Is we have to work on, the one I picked was, there's many things we have to work on. Ben Adam L'Chaveron, Ben Adam L'Makom, is I wanted to bring it in because we just had Bilam, okay, and one of these things we had a bad eye, evil eye. And what's an evil eye? An evil eye is on your own stuff and on other people's stuff, meaning you're stingy about your own stuff, and you also don't want others to have. Okay, that was what Balak didn't want. He didn't want the Jewish people to be better than the rest of the world. Better they don't be here. They don't remind us that, they have to be better, right? That's what they didn't want. That's an evil eye. Really should be very happy for God, for everybody. There's good people out there that they're doing really good things, and not be jealous of them and say it's not a good thing that they're here because it's showing us up to be worse, whatever. This is what we still are today, right? We are still the examples always of the highest level of morality that there is in the world, okay? We have to be happy when other people are doing well. We have to be happy for other people, okay? We have to think of how can we not see the negative in other people, because that's what Bilam and Balak were looking for, the little edge in the Jewish people. What's that little thing that there's a weakness, that they're bad, right? And that's how we look at people sometimes. We look at, there could be a wonderful person, like I said on Shabbos, but they slurp their soup. They can be a wonderful person, but they're messy like me. They can be a wonderful person, but they don't have tact, but they're a wonderful person. They help a lot of people. But they have their problems. We have to see ayin tova, we have to see the whole picture and see that they're really a good person. They can help some of their flaws. Some of their flaws, they don't even understand how to fix it. Okay? Some flaws you understand how to work on. Other flaws you don't even know how to start to work on them because you don't see what you're supposed to see. You don't understand how that hurts anybody that you said that. You don't understand it, so how can you? So that's ayin tova towards other people. Ayin tova also in what you have. This is from Rabbi Joey Haber, and he was saying that I'm sorry, I'm over. Rabbi Joey, I'm gonna have one more slide. Rabbi Joey Haber also, he said that ayin tova also is that we have to be flexible with our own things. It's not ours. Hashem gave it to us to share. Hashem gave it to us to give to other people, whether it's our car, whether it's our room, whether it's everything that you use, like this is mine, like nobody touched this is my pen, like don't use this pen, that pen. Like to be like Hashem gave us, I'm saying some things you're allowed to say no sometimes, okay? But the idea being that not because it's mine, not mine. Hashem gave it to me. I have to have ayin tova, want to give it out to others. So I have to have ayin tova from my things to, to mine, to give to others, ayin tova about other people, what they're all about. So just a quick thing is, how will these things become a yom tov? So this is Mrs. Vivian Frank. She brought the example from Rabbi Mordechai Brecher from, I don't know the name of the book, after growing something. Growing with I don't remember what it was. Anyway, he said, it's an example of a person who's, I don't remember exactly what the example was, but like an addict, an addict, a drug addict, whatever, and he's ruined his whole life. They're coming to take on the same day, they come to take all his belongings because he owes, who knows what, they threw all away his belongings. His wife leaves with the children. She doesn't want to have anything to do with this anymore. And on top of that, his internet connection is not working. He had TV that took like the cables of his TV, but today that's not it. Whatever, but anyway, the internet connection, it all happens on one day. His house is gone, his family is gone. The last thing he has to escape into is gone, and from that moment he decides he has to change his life. And he goes and he gets rehab and does whatever he has and lives happily ever after, which is not so easy. But that's the point. How will he look at that day in the future? He will look at that day as the best day in his life,
the tipping point
that changed his whole life. He won't be looking at it as that's the worst thing that ever happened. So the same thing, if we use our fast days to be a jumping point to do tshuva, a jumping point of what we're missing and that we want to get better, and as a result of that we will get the Beis HaMikdash, then there will no longer be fast days. There will be yom tovs. There will be good days because they caused us to have that understanding of what we're missing and the idea for change and doing tshuva during these 3 weeks, and then the Beis HaMikdash will be built because of our how we dealt with that. So anyway, maybe soon.
You did very good without your notes.
Very beautifully put, and it sounds so simple, doesn't it? Okay, all right, go out there and do it, everybody. Like, everybody should do their part. Okay, so, thank you. Okay, so we're going on with our laws of consoling the mourners, consoling mourners. Nichum Avein. Okay, so I'm just going to read this little section. Aaron Weinstein glanced at the clock. It was 11:15. Exhausted by the long day of Avelis that started at 7 o'clock when the minyan began, he hoped that they would soon be able to call it a day. Just then the door opened and Chaim Rudman walked in. Aaron tried to stifle a groan. Hope it's not too late, Chaim said cheerfully, and he began a long monologue that had little to do with either the pain of the Avelim or the memories of the Niftar. The Avelim repeated yawns and glances at the clock. It didn't seem to register with him at all. He kept talking and asking inappropriate questions, nor did he seem to notice that all the other visitors had left. Finally, at 11:30, he rose, said his requisite words of nechumim, and apologized for not for coming late, but for being unable to stay longer. Clueless. We're talking about clueless, right? Okay, so the purpose of making a shiva call is to, exactly in the words, nichum avelim, to comfort people. And a person has to really think about what is the thing, how do you act, what do you say, what do you do that will actually make a person feel better? And it requires a certain amount of sensitivity. Really, you're not supposed to speak until the availing speak. You're supposed to sit there quietly, like it's their show. Their show. I mean, it's their experience of it, and they should be able to guide it. Sometimes people are a little bit shy or whatever, and maybe after a minute or two, so you could ask a question, a gentle question. But basically, you have to really try and attune yourself to what they're experiencing. I mean, I think probably everybody here has been through some kind of Avelis, and think back to your own experience and how you experienced, and try and use that as a guide to don't think about all the stupid things that people said to you, but think about the nice things that people said to you. So
you can learn from the stupid things too, learn not what to say.
Okay.
And not what to do.
Yeah, all right. That's true. That's true. I just mean you should let things go after a while. Yes.
I had an experience years ago. Wow. I was living in California, and I was sitting at the rabbi and rabbi's house, my house. And only one person came to see me there, and it was a gentleman of the community. And he knew my mother had been a big baseball fan. She grew up with the Dodgers. Anyway, so he wasn't always the most appropriate on-topic person, and he began talking about his baseball card collection. Autographs, And you know what? I'm so touched because he came with all of his heart. And it didn't matter what he spoke about, he came to comfort me.
Right.
It was okay that he was, it wasn't really about my mother, it was about his passions. But he gave such a cool heart that was
Right.
perfect. I think
Right.
I was ready for more.
Yes, sir.
He's the only one that came. I
Okay.
love the community.
Wow. I mean, well, that's unfortunate. I mean, the thing is that you don't,
I'm grateful.
it's really hard to know exactly what's, the right or the wrong thing to say. You don't really want to, oh, your other daughter's not here. Where is she? Okay.
When it really, really, not what to say when I didn't sit Shiva because my father's not Jewish, but even so, I was still grieving in the morning. And it was COVID, so nobody would come, even if I wasn't. Someone called me and said, Well, it wasn't Jewish, so you probably not saw what.
Okay, people say dumb things. Let me just get to the topic. Excuse me. Okay, let me just get the material. We're running late a little bit today anyways. Okay, so when you're finishing before you leave, you've seen this every time. People say an expression of avelus hamakom. This is something everybody should learn, by the way. It's not that difficult, and you should really just sit. No, you could sit down or write it in your palm before you go in. Okay, hamakom yinachem etchem betoch shar avele Tzion v'Yerushalayim. 7 words, I think. Somebody count?
Still say it.
Or say it in English.
Or Sardim is the French.
Say it again. From heaven. Okay.
Can you say it, Judy? Judy, can you say it again? Can you say it again, please?
Hamakom yinachem etchem betoch shar avele Tzion v'Yerushalayim. Hashem, you should be comforted among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Okay, so here's some things that you do and don't do. Okay, so please everybody, I don't want to embarrass you. Shut up your ringers and stuff, like that.
That's a good one though. Shut your phone off before you walk in the door.
That is a good tip. That is absolutely a good tip. Okay, so during the first 3 days, there are some poskim who say that you do not go to visit the person. Okay, there are others who say that you do. The first 3 days are intended for crying. The 4th through 7th is intended for mourning. The reason why people, I guess if somebody is really hysterical and for the first 3 days, maybe they don't want that public. But again, you have to go, certainly if you're a close friend, then you should be there. You should be there the first day, the second day, the third day. You should, be with the person to support them as much as they need to be supported. Yeah.
It's also time for family and close people, but they don't have.
Right. Good point. Okay. Did you hear what Illana said?
I'm not sure.
Listen, there are poskim who say that you do come the whole time, and I think it does depend on the circumstances. Okay, from the 3rd to the 7th day, the mourner does not greet anybody else, and if they greet him unknowingly, he can respond. So you don't say, hi, how are you? It's a little tricky, this hi, how are you thing, because it's not exactly, you're not really asking somebody how they are. It's more like beginning of conversation, so it's like a little bit, but the use of the word of shalom, well, I'll talk about it in a minute. Okay, so from the 7th to the 30th day, he may greet others. Okay, everybody just take a minute to close your phones. Everybody put your phones on silent. Okay, so he can greet others, but others should not greet him. If they do, he can respond. On Shabbos, there's no public avelus, so you don't say any kind of, you say good Shabbos, and he can say good Shabbos. That's, there's no public mourning. Okay, and then
also you're not supposed to mention it. I learned that one time when I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, your grandmother."
Yeah, it's not.
You can say, "How are you doing?"
You can say.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, then after Shloshim, so the Avel returns to his regular status, unless you're in mourning for a parent, then he's continued to mourn, and you can give him tanchumim, but for most people, listen, you have to be sensitive. Like, okay, Shloshim's over, so you're done like being sad that your husband died. No, you have to be, you have to be very sensitive to what the person's needs are, and
a lot of people don't know this. They think everybody is a year. People said really stupid things to me after a month when I showed up to events. It's like,
oh, okay, yeah. It's only for parents that you're in mourning for a year. For all your other relatives, it's 30 days, an intense 30 days. But
know.
Yeah, you're not done with
That's
your
why
feelings.
you're
You're not,
getting
yeah,
feedback, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. It's not done.
Yes, they're
It's like the most intense period is Shiva, but you're also during that time. It's sort of like you're in a misgeret, which I think is the point of it. You're in some kind of framework. This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do this, supposed to sit here, people are supposed to come. That, then after that, it's like, whoa, I'm on my own. I'm in the world again. Like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to
Everybody
face
goes
the
back
word?
to their lives.
Yeah.
And then the reality hits you.
Right. So, all right. So in general, it's so for mourning, you console a person, for a parent for the full 12 months. If somebody's wife passes away, it's actually you still console them for shalosh regalim. Okay, which you think is a year, but it's not a year. In other words, like after the 3 festivals pass, somebody dies somebody passes away right before Rosh Hashanah. So you have Sukkot, then you have Pesach, and then you have Shavuos. Okay, that's 3 regalim, and it's in a period of 7, 8 months or whatever. So then the mourning is considered technically to be done, but it's not. It's not. Okay, so let me just give a summary, and we'll go on. Okay, the mitzvah.
I'm so confused. What on earth are you talking about?
Yeah, one of the 3,
Yeah,
the
never
three
heard
regalim,
that.
it's like, that's usually the hardest time, is when you
Yes.
go through Yom Tov and they're not there.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
But
not there, and
you're
so
talking
you
about
have to go
parents?
through the 3 Yom Tovim. If they pass away just before Pesach, they have to go through Pesach, through Shavuos, and through Rosh Hashanah Sukkot.
Right.
To
Not
the
the
Yom
whole-
Tov, you have to go
It's
through.
really a year, but no, listen, all right, let me just clarify, okay, for a parent, you're in mourning for an entire year, and it's appropriate for somebody to try and console you for the entire year. Okay, for a spouse or a brother or whatever it is, then it's appropriate to console them. The period of time is the passing of the shalosh regalim.
Right.
So if somebody dies in August, okay, then they will pass Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuos, and then after that period, again, it goes according to how a person's feeling, right? You want to be sensitive, but after that period, then it's not really so appropriate for like.
Is that halacha or minhag? The halacha is 30 yom, so 30 days. So is that a minhag? So it's
No,
more than
no.
30 days.
Somebody told me, but the point
Wait,
is,
It's not clear what you're saying.
No, so you do, this is talking about how long you console the person. Okay, so certainly there's no question. You see a person within 30 days, you say makom to them, it's very appropriate. Certainly it's completely fresh in their heart, right? So you say whatever you say. After that,
Halachically not in mourning, but we are still required to.
it's appropriate to console a person up through that amount of time. You see a person 3 years later and you say, wow, sorry you lost your wife, what? It's a little too distant. So that's the immediate period.
this is the point that you're really supposed to be, you're supposed to be comforting, because Hashem is like working through you. And if you go into that Shiva house with the urea that Hashem is going to put the right words in my mouth to comfort this person, and it's about them and about taking yourself out of the way.
Okay.
And then over time, you sense whether they do or don't want to hear about it. They've gone on with their life and they haven't, or they can't. Maybe 3 years it is sort of, but maybe not. It's also
Listen, some people never leave it, right? I mean, some people, but I'm just talking about how you interact with that
That's
person.
right.
But if I see someone at the store and all she's thinking is, should I get chicken or should I get meat? And how many pounds of potato? And then I say, oh, I'm so sorry, how you doing? How was your brother was so sorry. Brings her all back to all that.
Yeah.
Instead of-
It's not good.
You don't know. That's the hard part. You just don't know.
To ask Hashem to just give us.
Yeah.
Right words in my mouth, because I don't know what
Right,
to say.
right. You just don't know what's the right thing to say. And okay, so let me just do the summary because we're finished with this topic. The mitzvah of nichum avelim is another expression of the ahavta l'recha kamocha, the halachta v'drachav. Okay, they're going in Hashem's way. The mitzvah has a dual purpose, comforting the Avel and honoring the Niftar. The Sudas Havra'ah for the Avel should be provided by neighbors. And what I thought was just like a nice thing, but it's like a real life halacha. People don't serve themselves. While sitting Shiva, the Avel should open the conversation, and we should act in accordance with his hints as to when the Nichum Avelim visit should be concluded. Okay, so here's a tip. Time to go. Okay, it is forbidden for the Avel to give or receive shelot shalom. You don't, shalom shalom. According to halachic guidelines, he should not overreact in his grief, but should accept the decree of Hashem lovingly and adhere to the limitations applicable to the first 3 days of mourning and the Shiva and the Shloshim. Okay, that is it.
I want to make, I was just at a Shiva tent. Neighbors of mine from the Rova just lost their son in Gaza. And please don't ever say to somebody when they've just lost a child, be strong.
Yeah.
Because I heard somebody literally say this to their mother, be strong. And I opened my mouth and I said do not be strong. Do not be strong. This is the time you cry and you mourn. Do not pretend to be strong. So please don't ever say that to somebody who just lost a loved one.
Okay.
What?
I think it might be better to be more quiet and let the person talk. I think there's actually, I'm not sure that you're supposed to let the talk. Let them talk.
That's what Judy said. That's right.
Okay.
Somebody told me they were once at a Shiva and the wife who lost her husband didn't say a word. Not a word. Not a word. That is very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable, but that's not the point. It's
That's
like
what she was.
that's what you have to do what you want to do.
People being nice.
Yeah, whatever they need. Okay, anyways, thank you. Stop recording. Okay, so some announcements.